Okay, it's been like 5 minutes. I'm clearly having Ripples of Undeath withdrawals. Let's put that in a deck again. I like the part where I mill 3 cards at the beginning of my pre-combat main phase. Shadow, not that one, needs us to jump through a few hoops. He's annoying to block due to his death touch, but since we need to reliably deal combat damage to our opponents, a little more evasion certainly wouldn't hurt. Key to the City, Brotherhood Regalia, minus Morgul, and Hot Soup are basically unconditional unblockable, and if we're okay with paying some resources every turn, Rogue's Passage, Access Tunnel, Suspicious Bookcase, and Shizo also fill the slot. Once we can hit people, we need some payoffs. We have some funky plays with things like Come Back Wrong, Coveted Jewel, or Treacherous Blessings to get some huge advantage without having to deal with the drawbacks of those cards. But our explicit plays with Shadow come in the form of easily discounted high mana value bombs like Bygone Colossus, Hollow Marauder, and Shadow of Mortality, or high impact death triggers like Junji or Kohusha. Playing these chonkers for extremely cheap and then sacrificing them to Shadow is going to be our primary game plan, and we run a lot of death protection in Kaya's Ghost form, Malakir Rebirth, and Supernatural Stamina. But if Shadow doesn't get to start his bonking, we'll be left with a handful of bombs and no mana to cast them, right? Well, we're in mono black, so no, not really. Not only are we very capable of making ridiculous amounts of mana with the Cabal Coffers Urborg package and our 2 maps, tutors that get even more valuable with the huge amount of utility lands that help Shadow get through, but our second game plan, Reanimator, happens to pair very well with our desire for huge mana value dudes. We get cards into the yard with Undead Butcher, Stitcher Supplier, or, here's the good part, Ripples of Undeath, and then you get them out. Stitch together, persist, and restart sequence let us loop some of our big payoffs with Shadow, or just slam huge threats like Sepulchral Primordial or Noxious Gearhulk. But I do want to highlight 2 cards that particularly stand out. Shuifit lets us easily loop our reanimation targets with Shadow since the skeletons keep their mana costs, meaning we get to have our cake without paying for it every turn, and Heartless Summoning is the easiest sell of all time in a deck that cares very much about getting discounts on expensive creatures, but could not care less about what happens to their stats. I have been pretty vocal about my favorite Magic card being Fling, and Shadow lets you do basically that every attack on top of drawing you cards. How could I not adore him? One day I will stop falling in love with mono black commanders, but today is not that day.